Welcome to the second virtual public workshop for the Connecticut statewide bus study. This presentation will provide an overview of the study, summarize stakeholder and public outreach efforts, and discuss the analyses conducted and their findings, and provide a summary of the study's recommendations. Overview, existing conditions, and outreach. The next few slides will present information about the study, existing conditions for the transportation system in the state, and outreach efforts. Study overview. The last comprehensive look at the state's bus system was in 2000. Since then, changes have occurred. The state's population grew, and its travel needs and patterns have changed. For example, new transit systems have come online, such as CT Fast Track, or will be open soon, such as the CT Rail Hartford line. This study looked at current and future travel needs, bus system performance, and ways to improve the state's bus system. In 2015, the governor announced Let's Go CT, a vision and call to action for the future of the state's transportation system, which recognizes bus service as the foundation of Connecticut's transit system and calls for complete evaluation of the state's bus system. Study goals. The study goals build on existing bus service by improving connections to employment, providing more bus service and capacity where needed, modernizing the bus system with intelligent travel system technologies, and promoting better connections between buses and other services and destinations outside of the state. Existing conditions. The state is served by fixed route bus, intercity bus, commuter rail, intercity rail, and paratransit services. In 2014, the statewide bus system had more than 42 million passenger trips. This number is expected to grow. Bus systems range from small transit properties serving rural areas to large properties in urban areas. Connections to trains are provided at almost all New Haven Line and branch stations, as well as some Amtrak and Shoreline East stations. There are 82 park and rides providing connections to bus service. Intercity bus is available to key destinations within and outside of Connecticut. Stakeholder outreach efforts. During the study, interviews were held with the state's mobility ombudsman and 13 colleges and 4 universities to understand the travel needs and desires of the people they serve. The feedback we heard included the following: a need to expand bus spans of service to allow students and employers to use transit earlier and later in the day, a need to expand service coverage to a variety of origins and destinations, such as between home and work locations and between jobs and classes. There is a desire to improve connectivity of campuses to neighboring towns and cities, rail stations, satellite campuses, and between urban and rural areas. Direct access to colleges, universities, and suburban and rural employment destinations is needed. We were told that riders have long travel times because they have to transfer between bus routes to complete trips. Often, bus schedules are uncoordinated, which affects their ability to enroll in classes or accept employment opportunities. Throughout the study, we have also held regular combined meetings with the regional planning organizations and transit agencies to provide updates on study progress and milestones and to get feedback. Public outreach efforts. The first virtual public workshop was held in the summer of 2016 for this study. More than 360 people participated in the workshop and survey. It allowed the public to provide feedback about transit use, intermodal connections, and transit needs. The survey responses provided insights into travel behavior, choices, and needs. Some highlights from the survey are: nearly 3/4 of respondents use transit for travel in the state. Common reasons for not using transit included limitations in where buses travel and when bus service is available. Just over 1/3 of respondents make at least one transfer as part of their trip. This includes transfers from a single bus network or between connecting bus systems. The top three identified needs were more frequent, faster bus service, real-time bus information, and more direct routes, less transfers, as shown on the graphic. There are two categories of statewide need. The first category is global needs. These represent needs that exist at the statewide level and are applicable to all the fixed route systems within the state. Addressing these needs will contribute to a more unified and easier to use statewide bus system. The second category is route level needs. These needs focus on the individual bus route or agency and include issues with performance, coverage, and interaction between riders and bus services. Statewide global needs. Several global needs have been identified through analysis of the statewide bus system and from public feedback. These needs include the need for consistent performance guidelines, data collection, and measurement across the statewide system. There are also shortcomings on how information is made available to riders within individual systems and across the state. Analysis and feedback has indicated the potential need for expanded service to meet travel demand, such as work trips outside of the regular workday and to key destinations, and to and between the state's colleges and universities. Looking forward, there is a need for the statewide system to implement available and consistent technologies to improve the system's efficiency, performance monitoring, and the ability to effectively communicate with passengers. Need for statewide bus service guidelines. Currently, there is no process to measure bus system performance across the statewide system, and many agencies do not have any process at all. Service guidelines provide the basis for consistent statewide system performance measuring. The results of performance assessments will provide information for service modification decisions, how and where to invest funds, and to plan for the future. The Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, or FAST Act, requires that states and metropolitan planning organizations use performance measures and targets to assess transportation system performance and progress in meeting performance targets under their transportation plans in order to qualify for and maintain federal funding. Initially, the state's bus systems may not meet the guidelines, especially across all routes. However, after regular required application of the process, individual bus systems will be able to better meet the guidelines. Therefore, new Connecticut statewide bus service guidelines were developed. The service guidelines are based on industry best practices, the goals of Let's Go CT, and the study's goals. They provide measures for cost effectiveness, service performance, and meeting statewide transportation goals. These guidelines are the foundation of the 2016 statewide bus study, system and route analyses. They will be used to evaluate performance of the state bus system on a regular basis going forward. To be successful, consistent data from all transit operators is required to implement the guidelines. The guidelines will help the statewide bus system evolve into a stronger system. What will the service guidelines measure? 4 service standard categories were developed and evaluated. They include route design guidelines to determine where bus routes should operate and how often they should operate. Schedule design guidelines to define minimum headways, span of service, and hours of operation. Route productivity guidelines to gauge the overall cost to operate the route or system compared to other measures, such as the number of passenger trips and distance traveled. Service delivery guidelines to assess the routes including travel time and on-time performance. Using these guidelines, specific strengths and weaknesses of the routes were identified and used to develop recommendations. How well is the statewide system performing? The 2016 statewide bus study collected available data from each of the state's bus service providers. The service guidelines were used to evaluate the performance of each system as compared with their similarly sized in-state peer systems. A two-stage evaluation process was used to apply the guidelines and measure performance. The Stage 1 evaluation assessed and ranked the statewide bus routes based on key metrics. The Stage 2 evaluation examined the highest and lowest performing routes from Stage 1 at a finer level of detail for route and scheduling characteristics. The results were used to identify specific strengths and weaknesses for the selected routes and were used to develop recommendations. Stage 1 evaluation results. Using available data, the Stage 1 evaluation was performed. The study analyzed areas in the state where people are likely to use transit and to determine if those areas are being served today. Some small pockets of underserved areas near existing bus routes were identified. These areas should be examined for extending bus service or alternate transportation options. It was also found that some bus routes for smaller and mid-sized bus systems have low to moderate utilization. Additionally, the ability to assess on-time performance was an issue across all of the transit agencies due to a lack of data. Only Greater Bridgeport Transit provided sufficient data to assess on-time performance, and none of their routes met the 90% on-time target, though many were close. For the Stage 1 evaluation, 76 bus routes were advanced to be studied in more detail under Stage 2. We would like your feedback. The purpose of these questions is to understand how reliable bus service is, and if it goes where you want to go. Please take time now to provide us with your input. Stage 2 evaluation results. The Stage 2 evaluation included criteria for route design, schedule design, route productivity, and service delivery. Similar to Stage 1, data availability was an issue, and only routes or systems with data could be evaluated. In the route design category, we looked at bus stop spacing. The bus stop spacing criteria was used to evaluate existing spacing between bus stops. Just over 30 of the 76 routes had data on bus stop spacing. Of these, many routes were found to have too many bus stops per mile. These routes should be assessed to determine if their stop spacing is appropriate by the individual transit agency. We also looked at bus stop amenities. The Bus Stop Amenities Guideline was used to prioritize bus stops for installation of benches and shelters. This analysis could be done only for the Greater Bridgeport Transit Service because the other transit operators do not collect passenger boarding information at the bus stop level. Greater Bridgeport Transit bus stop candidates for shelters and benches were identified based upon the evaluation, and Greater Bridgeport Transit should check to see if those locations meet the guideline. At a minimum, all bus stops throughout the state should be required to have a bus stop sign and a pole, a stable and clear waiting area, and signage with bus route information. In the schedule design category, we looked at headways, which is the time between buses. The headway assessment was used to determine if service levels were sufficient to support ridership demand or if too much service was being provided given ridership levels. Only 14 of the 76 routes had data available to evaluate this criterion. For those routes that could be evaluated, most were operating too much service and should be evaluated by the individual transit operator. We also looked at span of service, which is how long the bus operates in a day. The criteria was used to determine what times and how long bus service should run, based on ridership on the first and last trips for that route. Few of the transit operators had the necessary passenger load data by trip to conduct this assessment. For the routes that were evaluated, it was found that service span hours are appropriate for the level of ridership demand in their coverage area. It is recommended that automated passenger count technology be expanded to all bus systems so that information can be routinely collected and its performance metric assessed. This technology is being deployed on many buses within Connecticut today. In the route productivity category, we measured passenger trips per revenue mile. Measuring passenger trips per revenue mile is a metric used to evaluate the efficiency of routes. A route with a low number of passengers per revenue mile has low utilization. On the other hand, a route with too many passengers per revenue mile might have overcrowding issues. Only 43 routes could be evaluated. Several were found to have low levels of utilization. For those routes and the routes that could not be evaluated, transit agencies should review the routes for specific causes of low productivity. We also looked at fare box recovery. Fare box recovery is a metric that measures how much fare revenue covers the cost of providing service. This was calculated at the transit agency level because insufficient data was available at the route level. 12 of the 19 transit operators were evaluated for this criteria. It is recommended that transit operators evaluate their low utilization routes. Making routes more productive, that is, carrying more passengers per trip, can improve fare box revenue. Continuing in the route productivity category, we looked at revenue to non-revenue miles. The revenue to non-revenue miles ratio provides insight about how efficiently a route is scheduled. Non-revenue miles are incurred when a bus travels from its depot to the starting point of the route and vice versa. Revenue miles represent miles accrued when the bus is picking up and dropping off passengers. Ideally, a bus should travel only a short distance to begin or end revenue service. Of the 76 routes, only 24 routes could be evaluated for this criterion. For those routes that were evaluated, transit agencies should consider running more service to increase revenue miles or consider smaller secondary storage locations or relocating storage facilities. Also, it should be investigated if two transit agencies could share the same depot to reduce non-revenue miles for both. In the service delivery category, we measured average distance between bus failures. Average distance between bus failures is a metric used to measure overall vehicle availability for service. Understanding how often buses are taken out of service for repairs helps agencies understand and improve their service reliability. This data was not available at the route level and was evaluated at the system level. Several systems had more frequent breakdowns compared to the statewide average. It is recommended that these agencies review the vehicles in their fleet to identify any patterns or adjust their maintenance schedules to prevent future failures from happening. However, the good news is new buses are on the way for several systems. Also on the service delivery area, we looked at the fleet average age. Fleet average age measures overall fleet performance and vehicle availability for service. Older vehicles and fleets are more likely to have components and parts that are worn out or defective. If buses need to be taken out of service, this leaves agencies with fewer vehicles to operate service. If buses have heaters or air conditioners that don't work, this affects passenger comfort. The average age for vehicles in the statewide system was compared to the Federal Transit Administration's minimum useful service life guidelines. Any fleet with vehicles above 2/3 of their useful life were identified as these vehicles might be candidates for replacement or rehabilitation. The fleets for most of the statewide transit agencies are above 2/3 of their useful life. It is recommended that all agencies examine their fleets. As mentioned, in the next 2 years, many transit operators will be replacing some or most of their buses, which will help improve fleet performance. We would like your feedback again. The purpose of these questions is to help us understand your experience using the bus. In summary, our analysis identified route level needs. For the routes that could be evaluated, their needs include: some bus routes have too many stops per mile. High ridership stops should have shelters or benches and should be comfortable and convenient to use. On some bus routes, there is low utilization, and transit operators should examine the cause. On some systems, fares pay for an insufficient portion of the operating costs. Several systems should examine the need to rehabilitate or replace buses because they are old and or wearing out. Transit operators should look for ways to also reduce the distance buses travel when not in passenger service. A key finding of the performance evaluation conducted during the statewide bus study is that consistent data across the state's transit operators is an issue. One of the challenges in assessing the bus system performance, particularly at the route level, was the absence of data. While transit operators were responsive in sharing the data they have, many do not collect performance data at the route level. The lack of standardized data indicates a need for more uniform data collection and reporting. Having complete and consistent data across all transit operators allows for a more apples-to-apples comparison of bus routes and a fuller understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of the bus service across the state. It is recognized that some agencies may not have the staff or budgets to support comprehensive data collection. However, it will be required. Guidelines and technologies to support better data collection are proposed as part of the global recommendations. Intercity bus needs. An assessment of the need for intercity bus service was also performed. It was found that most of the state has access to intercity bus service. However, a few destinations might benefit from intercity bus service. Other needs include more marketing and advertising to promote intercity bus service. Global recommendations. One of the purposes of the Connecticut statewide bus study is to identify ways to make the statewide bus system be more interconnected and user-friendly. The global recommendations are focused on the system as a whole. They include recommendations to improve bus performance by establishing standards for route and schedule design, route productivity, service delivery, and financial performance. Expanding automated vehicle location and automated passenger count technologies to all fixed-route transit operators will help streamline the data collection process and support performance evaluation. It will also help them monitor and evaluate their schedules, headways, and running time performance. Using these technologies and the data it provides, agencies will be able to identify usage and ridership trends, improve planning and scheduling, and adjust bus service to meet demand. The Connecticut Department of Transportation has begun to standardize data collection with a new online data collection process and tools. The initial data collection effort will be completed in the next 6 months. The goal is to have all bus routes collecting and reporting consistent data in the system in the next 18 months. Additional global recommendations. Providing accurate and easy access to information about bus stop locations, bus schedules, connections to other transit systems, and real-time bus arrival information play a large role in the bus rider's experience. It is recommended that all transit operators focus on improvements that deliver information to help users plan trips and make transit more convenient to use. The statewide bus system is comprised of a range of transit operators of varying sizes, complexity, resources, and capabilities. A consolidated transit entity may be able to serve the state more efficiently than multiple transit operators. A governance study should be undertaken to assess the feasibility, benefits, and challenges related to creating a single statewide operator. Providing or improving service to special transit generators and expanding student transit discount policies should be explored and could result in new or increased transit ridership. We'd like your feedback on the global recommendations. The purpose of these questions is to understand what is most important to you regarding the improvements to the statewide bus system. Please select your top 2 priorities. The following route level recommendations are based upon the assessments that we were able to make for the transit operators, but may not be indicative of every route in this system. For those routes that could be evaluated, the following recommendations are made. Undertake an examination of bus stop spacing to identify and eliminate low ridership stops to help speed bus running times. Identify high ridership stops for the installation of benches and shelters as appropriate. Adjust service frequency for routes where passenger loads are high to reduce crowding, and review spans of service to ensure travel needs are being met. Additional route level recommendations include identifying the specific causes for low productivity and portions of bus routes that are unproductive, identifying opportunities for improving fare box revenue by decreasing operating costs, such as adjusting routes with low utilization or increasing ridership through marketing or service improvements, investigating exact causes for frequent mechanical breakdowns and taking steps to correct them, and reviewing the fleets and identifying vehicles for replacement or rehabilitation. The intercity bus recommendations include the following. Intercity bus operators could consider applying for intercity bus and rural public transportation federal funding related to improving their services, though funds are scarce. The state should continue to talk to intercity bus operators about their current and future needs. Service should be considered to the Eastern State University campus. The state should also continue to encourage an interconnected transportation system, including intercity bus. The next steps in the statewide bus study are as follows. Publishing the draft Stage 1 and Stage 2 evaluation report on the project website, and drafting and publishing the final report for the study, which will include existing conditions, the performance assessments, and the global recommendations covered in this presentation. Thank you for your participation in the statewide bus study.